Hello, photographers. The exposure indicator is the most important part of your camera because it is how your camera communicates with you. The exposure indicator is a graph that tells you how much light you'll be capturing for the photo you're about to take. And once you understand how to read it, you'll be able to use it to easily spot and fix problems before you ever even take a photo. On most DSLRs, mirrorless, and other advanced cameras, the exposure indicator is a graph that looks like this. You have 0 in the center with positive values on the right and negative values on the left. Underneath the graph is a pointer to show you the current value, and the different values tell you what your picture is going to look like. It works like this. When the pointer is at 0, then the photo will be properly exposed. This is called an exposure value of 0 and is notated like this. With an exposure value of 0, your photos will generally be well exposed, meaning that they won't be too bright or too dark. So knowing that an exposure value of 0 gives us a proper exposure makes it pretty easy to figure out what the rest of the graph means. If your pointer is on a positive value such as +2, that's an exposure value of +2. That means that the image will be overexposed and will be too bright. And if your pointer is on a negative value such as -2, that's an exposure value of -2. That means that the image will be underexposed and will be too dark. So what does this mean and how is it useful to you? The exposure indicator tells you how much light you're going to capture and if it's too much light, too little light, or just the right amount of light. And this means that you can point your camera at any subject and before you ever take a photo, you'll be able to tell if the photo will be too bright, too dark, or just right. And if you determine that it's too bright or too dark, you can easily make a settings adjustment to fix it without ever having to take a single photo. This is incredibly useful because it can save you time and help prevent mistakes in your photos. Now, there are 2 additional things you do need to know about the exposure indicator. First, and most important, you need to point the camera at the subject you intend to photograph when you're checking it. That's because the indicator works by reading the light in the scene. Even before you take a photo, light is bouncing off of whatever is in front of the camera and then going through the lens into the camera. Inside the camera is something called the camera meter, and it's the camera meter that interprets the light in the scene to give you the reading on your exposure indicator. So if you were about to take a photo of a person who is standing in front of you, but you pointed your camera at the floor to check your settings, then whatever reading you got would be for the floor. And if you were to set your settings to obtain an exposure value of 0 with the camera pointed at the floor, when you move the camera back up to your subject, the exposure indicator would be off and your photo will most likely be over or underexposed. The other thing you need to know is that the camera meter that I just mentioned and the readings it gives you on the exposure indicator are not always correct. When and why they aren't correct is a bit too complicated to go into in this video, but that's okay because I have a whole set of videos right here that explains how the camera meter works, why it's sometimes wrong, and how to use that to your advantage. And if you want to learn more about using your exposure indicator and how to take better photos, you can visit this link right here to get my free guide to understanding exposure. Now, if you have any questions about this or photography in general, just let me know down in the comments. And then do me a favor, would you like this video? Subscribe to my channel. If you really like this video, please share it with your friends. The sharing really helps spread the word. But the most important thing you need to do is get out there, take some damn photos. I will see you tomorrow for the live show. Whew. I had that teleprompter set way too fast. Thank you for watching. Now, I get loads of questions and they all boil down to one thing, which is how do I make my camera do what I want it to do? And here's the thing, your camera is like an instrument, and you can't make music if you can't play your instrument. If you want to learn how to play your camera like the instrument it is, visit this link right here to check out my Guide to Shooting in Manual Mode video course.